I'm going to be talking about what the Puppet Forge is, how our team is structured, and how we're building product. So sort of what we've done lately and what we're going to do. Then later this afternoon, I'm going to actually demonstrate some things to do with the Forge. So that's a quick synopsis if that helps you make your decision. Too many great talks. The one great thing about you being in this room is that it doesn't seem to be recorded. So you actually can see it as opposed to some of the other sessions that will be recorded. Together?
Yeah, I thought I'd see some of the new space. Nice to meet you.
The audio is recorded?
The audio is recorded and the video is audio is recorded.
It's
your video, your screen is being split.
Oh, okay, cool. So it is happening.
I wasn't going to say it.
I know what I would like. It's so awkward about this conference center. We've got this massive 700-person room and all these little itty bitty rooms. Couldn't replicate my telly.
What?
Andrew and Eric are working on the book that I was going to tell you. Late night demo review.
Come on in, they're still sit on the floor or I've seen the last one.
Oh yeah, we were the same way next door. Oh yeah.
People couldn't get into the door.
Which one is that?
That one was Bankrupt.
It's kind of open bar to be able to. Baba.
I just demonstrating how fast I can get up and out.
Sitting room only.
I have a suspicion this will become a customary seat for these sessions.
Right now it's cold, so I don't know about the other one.
I may just sit down too. Just hang out down here and talk about Forge. For those of you sitting and looking that way, I can try to do this. They're wonderful. Thank you all for coming in. Yes, we should get started on time, I suppose. I'm not gonna
Wait till the
let
room
you
fills up?
miss lunch. What's that?
You're not going to wait till the room fills up?
Well, no, it's a little sparse in here, but all right. Now I need to find a space to go where I'm not blinded and wouldn't kill myself. This is great right here. So hi everybody. You guys excited to be at PuppetConf? Yeah, right? I love this conference. I came last year right as I was hired at Puppet Lab, so I was still like this, still coming as an attendee, and it's just the energy of all the people coming to this conference are awesome. And it was, how many did we have last year? It was only a couple hundred. This year it's banana pants, so it's kind of awesome. So I'm here to talk to you today about the Puppet Forge. So we're going to talk about the team, which I'm a member. We're going to talk about Forge and content, and we're going to learn a bit about how I've approached this space and about what kind of things we're going to do on the Forge coming forward. So what is the Forge? The Puppet Forge is a web property of Puppet Labs for finding and sharing content, right? All the things that you do with Puppet, all the things you want to automate with Puppet. There's an opportunity for you to share that work with others or to find work that others have done. So this property has been around since, it actually started in 2009, and I think was launched in 2010, and hasn't really changed much since. So has anybody used the Forge in here? Okay, about half of you. Anybody contributed a module to the Forge?
Thank you.
Okay, that's cool. Hopefully after this, all of you will at least be interested in doing that, and hopefully in the next several months I can make it really easy for you to do that. So this property, as you can see, you can search for modules, find things that you might want to do, and we're going to talk a little bit about what you might find here. So we also have a command line tool for interacting with the Forge, and we can do a number of things with it, like search for modules on the Forge, just like you do on the website.
Sorry, can you minimize
Sure.
Yeah.
Thank you, Don. Yay. All right, now I really have to try hard not to put you to sleep. So jump, do things like that. So you can search for modules on the Puppet Forge. And really the best reason to have this command line client is installing modules in the Puppet Forge. So normally you would go to the website that I have here, you would click on a module, and before you would click a download button, you would get a tarball, and then you would go and put that on your master, and then you would put it in the right place and put it in the right name. And we launched this, I think it was last year. I had nothing to do with it. There was a bunch of bright people building the command line experience to install a module and put it in the right place. You could just use it, right? You found something you want to use in your infrastructure, just download it, install it, and use it. And so once you have all those things downloaded and installed, you want to be able to list those. So that's the other thing that the command line tool allows you to do. Right? So just listing out what modules you have. And one thing you might notice here with the little arrows pointing out is that we've built in dependency resolution. So one of the things you can do in the Forge is specify, hey, I've built this module, but it's going to rely on another one. So let's imagine you've got a MySQL database server, and it's going to rely on a firewall module to handle firewall rules, because you're not going to rebuild that logic for each of the times that you're inventing a module. So dependency resolution here, you notice that a lot of Puppet Labs modules rely on the standard library, which has a number of facts, functions, types, and providers, and other things that you can use. So it's a good thing to rely on if you want that functionality. And there's the Apache and firewall instance. So dependency resolution is done for you with the command line tool. So the team, and this is in no particular order. The images happen to just be this relative size. So we have our UX designer, Melinda, who just started full-time last week. And she's awesome. She's going to be handling the user experience for the kind of things you're going to see in the Forge coming through in the next several months. So we've also got Ken Barber, who's outside, like through that wall right there. If you want to see him afterwards, he's our engineer from London. He's awesome. He talks funny, and he's a great guy. So he's one of our engineers, our lead engineer. We've also got Peter Vandenbruggen, who decided to have the biggest photo on the slide deck. He's another engineer on our team, and loves to hack on things like drinking beer at the Lucky Lab in Portland. Anybody been to Portland before? Love to drink in Portland? Lucky Lab's a good place for that. A lot of people like to go there, hack on code, drink beer. It's good times. So you also have me, and I'm a bit of a weird guy to photograph, as Gary Larissa likes to often photograph me in weird positions. And apparently in this case, I'm doing my best impression of Aristotle, and I just hadn't realized it. So that's us, and we're just going to work on building the best Forge we can. We started this team in July 1, right? So there've been people that have been working on the Forge, people interested in the Forge, thinking about the Forge, but Puppet Labs has recently decided, hey, we're kind of switching from project to project and it's not really working out. We're just kind of not able to focus the attention on the properties that we really need to be focusing on. And so Luke said, okay, we're gonna form a permanent team around the Puppet Forge. And so that happened July 1 with me, with Peter, with Ken, and we've also been getting a lot of help from the Cloudsmith guys, which Ken here is one of them. Awesome people helping us make Forge a better place. So I'm product owner for the Forge, and so that means, well, I'll explain to you what it means. But why am I interested in being product owner? So I came from Penn State. Anybody from Penn State here? No? All right. Don't be making any jokes either. I left before the scandal, and it's, you know, bad times for my colleagues back at Penn State. But this was an awesome place to learn how to do IT, because I got to be in the central academic services and, you know, come up with crazy services to provide to 40,000 faculty, students, and staff. A crazy number of undergraduate students at Penn State. And it was awesome to be able to design IT services for them. And what was less awesome is that there were no IT people to build those services, because a university says, well, why do we need IT? We use books. And they didn't understand why anybody would want to, you know, share files with each other, log into computers in a unified way, you know, how to share their identity with other institutions. None of this made any sense to the people that ran, you know, the business unit for IT. And so I was responsible for all the Linux-based services that the university runs centrally, along with one other sysadmin. So it was just two of us. And we ran several hundred servers that would constantly like, and so another thing that's interesting about higher ed, if you come from higher ed, is people are very fickle about the services they want to run. So they'll say, hey, this thing looks awesome. Let's build this like Drupal wiki and everybody's going to collaborate on it. It's going to be awesome. And you build it and they're like, well, no, we wanted the next thing. We wanted the next service that you want to build. And so you end up tearing that down and you're building other things. And you have all this core infrastructure that you have to repeat. And so the reason I was really interested in Puppet, and the reason I leveraged Puppet and ended up coming to Puppet Labs, because I loved automating. I loved taking these things that I had to do on a daily basis because I had to change my services so often, automate them, get them out of the way so I could, you know, figure out how to run a Zimbra instance, for instance. That's what I ran towards the end. And I never would have been able to run that service had I not automated all the things required to get my services in line. So when I was at Penn State, I had no idea that Puppet Forge existed. And I guess when I first started systems administration, it didn't exist. But when it did exist, I didn't know about it. And I wrote a lot of stuff that I could have been thinking about sharing. And so I get in this mindset, I think probably a lot of you get in that mindset, where you're building these modules and you're like, this is for me, this is an awesome tool, I'm just gonna build out this code and I'm gonna send it out to, you know, my machines and that's it, right? You never think about others or think about, you know, maybe your colleagues coming down the line because, you know, you're just excited about automating and you're excited about getting it out there. But when I ran into these roadblocks where I'm thinking, well, okay, now I gotta build a module to manage my firewall rules and that's kind of boring and I really wanna be worrying about automating this thing over here. And so that's what the Forge is all about, right? So that you can get rid of those mundane tasks that someone else is really excited about, you're not. And they'll automate that thing and make it awesome. So I came to the Puppet Labs as a professional services engineer and toured around the world helping people use Puppet, doing trainings, doing on-site consulting, and then finally decided I wanted to be a product owner because I was excited about the kind of things that a product owner gets to do. So I have to have deep knowledge of these things, the data, customers, our industry, the products I'm building, and ultimately we should have awesome things that sysadmins get to use. You know, I'm a sysadmin, I want to build awesome things for sysadmins. So keep in mind that I have no clue how to do any of these things, just zero clue. I'm flailing about as wildly as possible because I'm a sysadmin, and I came to the Forge thinking, well, I know how to be a sysadmin, but that's not how you build product. So I'm still figuring it out. But what I do know is that I'm trying to find out about the customer, and I'm trying to find out about you, and I'm trying to make sure that I don't keep locked in my mind that I am like every other person, because we're all coming from challenges that are different. For those of you that aren't in higher ed, you've got different business challenges that I haven't had to experience and I don't know how to solve. So the things I'm trying to do to get to know you, I hang out on Puppet users. Mostly I just read because I'm too busy now to write, but I'd like to be writing more. But ping me on my individual email address if you like, but I'm taking a look at what you're doing on the Puppet users group as well to see what kind of problems you're running into, what kind of challenges you have when you're automating. I hang out on IRC and try to do the same thing, although there I really like getting real-time interaction with all of you. So if anybody has interacted, does anybody interact with me on IRC? You guys have? That's awesome. I love interacting with people on IRC, so I'm glad there's some in the room. And I want to get more time to do this, but if anyone's not in the Pound Puppet IRC channel, do that. It's awesome to just have a conversation with someone else about the problem they're trying to solve, or just the kind of problems they run into as a system lead. So here, conferences, puppet camps, trying to get out in front and just see what you guys are doing. And user tests. So Luke talked about this morning. We're trying to be, we've always done this as an organization, as Puppet Labs, for as long as I've been there, which is only about a year now, which is kind of long for an employee at Puppet Labs. See how long I can keep this sentence going. But we've always been doing stuff like this, and now we're just applying a formal language to it, and that's, we've got things to test. So we're testing the Forge at Puppet Lab, or at PuppetConf. I'll talk to you more about that later. But I'm also trying to, every time we come up with an idea that we think, well, this might work, this sounds like it'll solve your problem, we actually need to get it out in front of you and say, does this actually solve your problem? How do you interact with it? So I'll talk a bit about that. So about data, and we're not so good at this yet, but let me talk to you about a couple of pieces that we have as I drink some water here. Total modules has been going straight up into the right, which is awesome, but it's more interesting, not just that we've had this massive growth, but just the spikes of growth that we've had, and just the kind of community events. And usually, I don't actually have the exact dates here, but these are community events where we're doing these jumps, where they're puppet camps, where they're conferences like this, and it's just people both being aware of the Forge and getting excited about collaborating on modules. It's Puppet getting better, making it easier to create reusable content, like parameterized classes, and now Telly with data bindings. I'm expecting with Telly for this number to go way up, or at least for all those modules to become a lot more reusable. So in daily module downloads, this is something I'm also interested in because it's great if everybody shares your module, but if nobody's using it, then what's the point? So part of my job, thank you, Jeff. He's an awesome assistant. But part of my job is to make sure that both the people that are trying to share their content get a great experience and feel good about sharing their content, and then those that want to use that content and want to get that automation job chore out of the way have an easy way to do that. So I'm tracking just how download numbers are changing, and I'm just seeing how things are changing over time, basically the length of these lines, how many download counts it's increasing each day. So that's something I'm concerned about, but let's take a look at the weekday totals. And I kind of want to ask you, because this is a hypothesis we have, but obviously our Friday numbers are way better than everything else. And is that because, now in my job it was because Friday was a day that I just kind of got to play around with stuff. Nobody was beating down my door about a service. Is that what's going on with you? Is Friday kind of a day where you get to kind of tinker with a new project? Raise show of hands. What's that?
Less meetings on Friday.
Less meetings, more time to tinker. Okay, so we're not totally off base.
You don't want to break anything on Friday.
What's that?
You don't want to break anything on Friday.
That's right.
No deployments on Friday.
Yeah, we just implemented it again, no change Friday.
No change Friday?
Yeah.
It's like Hawaiian shirt Friday, but it actually means something. Yeah. All right. So that's what we were looking at there. And so monthly download totals over month, we just want to see that people are becoming more engaged with the Forge. We take a look at numbers of people that are returning to the Forge and reusing content over and over again. That's a great trend to keep on top of. And what's interesting to me is that there's a lot of elements at Puppet Labs that are trying to just build awareness around the Forge, but it's starting to become exponential. And that can't just be us. And so we have to try to figure out as an organization, are you telling your friends about the Forge? After you get out of this room, are you going to tell your coworker, hey, this Forge, I found some content here, it's interesting, maybe this might work for you as well? That's something I've got to figure out. So let's take a look at some of the content you might find. This is just a download count of all the content for August. And there's a lot of stuff out there, and I'm going to show you a couple examples. Here's some examples of standard library of Octocat app. Does anybody use these modules? Any of these? Okay. So we'll take a look at some of the examples here, but I like to see that I feel like these three modules are pretty awesome for solving particular needs, and so I'm trying to track, are people using them more? Are people repeat downloading them? Are they building new masters with them? This kind of stuff. Standard Lib has a lot of great functionality for building modules on top of. So when that number goes up, it gives me a little bit of an indication that people are using this module more. I can look at whether it's being just downloaded more because someone's using a module that Standard Lib is a part of, that kind of stuff. So I'm also interested in this. Are you returning to the Forge? Are you interested in coming back and finding new content? So I'm just trying to give you some insight into what we're thinking about when we're designing our product. And from where you come from, United States, United Kingdom, I look at this chart and I think if there was a nuclear apocalypse that I've got to move to Alaska or Canada. Because right now, most of the civilized world is using Puppet and Puppet Forge in some way. So we also have operating systems that I pay attention to. I'm just curious about this. It really has nothing to do with how I build product other than paying attention to certain browsers when we're building our website. But I find it interesting, especially since the percentage of new visits for Windows is a lot larger than the other top three.
Not sets
What's that?
large percentage of not
Yes, no, there's a fair number of not sets. So keep in mind that everything I just showed you is limited, and it's just trying to be a foundation for how we're starting to think about how do we measure whether this is working for you. And hopefully a lot of that is your user feedback to me, you sending me emails, you coming to me and talking to me about your problems. But we're trying to become more data driven so that we can understand the problems better. So let's move on. I'm about halfway through my time. So when it comes to the industry, I'm just keeping track of what's going on out there, other products that are doing similar things. And that might mean Chef and CF Engine, that might mean RPM and Debian packaging systems, right? They're similar spaces. So it's not just about like me going out and copying the competition or anything like that. It's just trying to be well-rounded with how I look at things. And so really it's all about content. And that's what the Forge is really meant to be. We're trying to get to a point where it's a transparent layer for you to find content and share content. So what you might find, extensions and plugins. So if you're anybody managing Windows in here, okay, a couple of you, check out the registry module. We've got guys that worked really hard to let you manage registry keys and values, and hopefully you find it to be a pleasant experience automating those things as opposed to the registry editor. So Augie's providers that Don Khalil has provided. This is kind of awesome. If anybody uses Augius in here, yeah, so a couple of you. It's awesome tool, but it's unwieldy, right? It's a little difficult. You have to invest the time in understanding its language and understanding how to build out a file in Augius. And this contributor to the Forge has built abstractions around it so that you can craft Puppet resources that are familiar to you and expressive to you, but on the back end, it's using a really great tool for manipulating files. So you'll find entire applications on the Forge. So you'll find our Tyler Jenkins module if you want to build out a Jenkins instance. And this kind of thing, content you might find on the Forge, that's probably not how you're going to deploy things to production. But if somebody came to you and said, hey, we need to get a Jenkins server going, then you can just build it out and start playing with it and use this to say, hey, I've got a Jenkins server going. It took me all day, and really the whole time I've been like hanging out and doing whatever I wanted. But then this can be your proof of concept. So you'll find complete solutions on the Forge as well, like OpenStack. And this, for me, is a similar kind of thing. Even though the OpenStack stuff is very mature at this point, Dan Bodie's been working really hard on it. There's other talks today about OpenStack. But if someone comes to you and says, oh, OpenStack, cloud, awesome, then you can go out and just build it. Build a one-machine OpenStack or a multi-machine OpenStack with modules from the Forge and say, yeah, I worked all weekend building this for you. I hope you like it. So you can also find system tools in the Forge. This one is one of my favorites. We have Yum repository management built into Puppet Core, but we didn't for the longest time have an equivalent for Debian systems. I'm actually a Red Hat guy myself, but it's awesome to me to see this kind of content on the Forge, because when you're trying to build your systems, you don't care about app-to-app repositories. You need those sources. You need those app sources so that you can build the applications and services that you need to build for your business. So for me, the Forge is a lot about giving you this kind of stuff that's ready to use out of the box. It's robust, it's mature, there's a lot of contributors making it better, and just gets it out of your way so you can focus on what you care about. Same thing with printers. If anybody is still using printers and paper, then you don't have to at least invent a new way to manage CUPS printers. Hopefully we'll get the same kind of things for Windows printers soon. Or if any of you have learned how to automate Windows printers, publish a module to the Forge. I will promote it. So, content tomorrow. Right now it's all about Puppet modules, but imagine that it's not just about Puppet modules. It's about M-Collective agents for managing all the various things with this awesome orchestration tool. It's about console plugins, right? If we have thank you, Jill. If we have an enterprise console that has applications that you can plug into and you write yourself. And it's also for the Puppet data library, having a bunch of extra connections for that if the crazy guys on the PuppetDB team start doing that kind of stuff. So I want to call out some authors here just to keep track of those. I will put my slides up, but these people have the most top 10 downloaded modules by author, and they've been really helpful getting the Forge some traction. So thank you to all of them. So where Puppet Lab stands, for my opinion, because my role as product owner is both for the Puppet Forge and setting direction for Puppet Labs as far as modules are concerned and other content. So I think we should really be mentoring you. That's why I'm trying to spend as much time as I can, and I'm trying to evangelize for other people in the organization to talk to you and help you automate, help you create reasonable modules, because we just need to be a force multiplier for you, right? You're our customer. So maintaining examples, you'll see that Puppet Labs does have a significant number of modules. They are a bit languishing, I'm sorry about that. The app module, for instance, is our poster child for being a well-maintained, mature module. Some of them aren't. Yell at me if they aren't. We're trying to get to a point where we have great examples so that you can go and see how Puppet Labs might build modules if we had the time to really dedicate to it. So on the OpenStack side, that's a big community project. Dan Bodie's done a lot of work there. There's other guys at Puppet Labs that have done a lot of work there, but this is primarily a community project. And that's awesome. We're going to continue to promote those. So let me tell you about a couple more things here. I need to learn how to do this. So I need the experience for you to be quick. I need to understand what you're getting. I need you to be able to get it deployed to Puppet. So some examples of that, you need to be able to determine what's popular. What does Puppet Lab tell you should use? What's going to be supported by your operating systems? And I need to be able to give you this kind of automatic documentation that you don't have on the Forge. Right? Documentation, if you're contributing your module to the Forge, I will buy you as many things as you want if you fully document your module with examples and usage and why you built it the way you did. I will love you and hug you and do all the things, anything. Please do that. So, by the way, if you Google a term in Google image search, you'll always find an album cover that has done it. I don't know why, but that's what happens. So we're only just getting started. Again, we just started in July, but let me talk to you about a couple of things we've been doing lately. So we've updated the homepage to make it a little easier to see what kind of modules are active, what kind of authors have been frequently uploading or maintaining their modules. We've also been, and this is, I wanted to do this for PuppetConf so that if you are using a module from the Forge, you can go and look at the gravatar for the person who wrote it and go and thank them today and tomorrow. So we also are working right now, and again, the Cloudsmith guys have been awesome helping us achieve these things with our small team. Having GitHub integration so that you can view the issues and pull requests that are relevant to the module you want to view. So that maybe if you're running into a stumbling block, you go here, you say, okay, there's an open pull request for that. I'm just going to wait a few days. So for contributors, I need to be able to make sure that it's easy and rewarding and fun for you to contribute and share your content. So an easier publishing experience, making sure the documentation is as easy as possible, making sure that all the automated testing can be done and validated so that you don't have to worry about updating it to say, yeah, this works, this complies with the Puppet Lab style guide. So I talked about user testing. We're going to be testing all these things. We're running out of time, so I'm going to be quick about this. But we're testing the entire Forge at PuppetConf. So this is the first time that we're asking you to sit down and say, hey, I want you to be able to build out an Apache virtual host using a module from the Forge. Go. And we're just going to watch you try. And we know that the Forge is going to be limited at this point, but it's crucial that we understand how you interact with the tool and what information you expect to get back. So please, if you can, contribute some time to testing that if you're passionate about this. So the last thing I wanted to talk to you about is what we're calling Project Octocat. And this is something that I really want your feedback on. Email me, talk to me on, whatever. But one of the reasons the Forge has been getting a little bit behind is because we're spending a lot of time trying to build a really robust platform so that you go there, it's bug-free, it does all the things you need. But one of the things we want to be able to do is leverage another service, I think you know who, to make the platform easier to iterate on and make features that you care about and that actually help you automate and use the Forge. So for anyone who wants to contribute modules, one of the first things that we're going to be doing to see if this kind of integration will work is set up a service hook with GitHub so that you can just push a tag and you release to the Forge. So that's, right now, if you've contributed to the Forge, it's a process where you have to go through a web form and you have to submit a tarball and you have to update documentation. And we're going to replace that with a command line tool where you just give it the tarball and it publishes it for you. But I'm making the hypothesis that it would be much better for you for your workflow to just commit a tag. And if you're using SVN, GitHub has an SVN hook as well, so that you can just take your SVN repository and push it to GitHub, which will then push it to the Forge. So those kind of things are what we're thinking about here, and I am desperate to get your feedback. I want to know what you're thinking, what kind of things you want to be able to accomplish, and how you work through sharing your content to the Forge. So I've got 5 minutes left. Ask me some questions, or join the lunch line early.